Jimmy, can I ask you a question?
I guess.
Did you like being a kid?
I don't know. I guess that's a complex question. I would say overall, yeah, there were a lot of things I liked about being a kid. I think the things that I didn't like about being a kid was the lack of independence. You know, your parents basically control everything and you don't have any spending cash or whatever. But when I look back at what I did like, I feel like I didn't appreciate it at the time. The fact that you had no responsibilities when you're a kid, the fact that you have friends and you see your friends every day and you interact with them every day. That's the stuff that like I miss. And yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of fun exploring in the woods, building forts, playing games like Manhunt and Capture the Flag.
They say that the youth is wasted on the young, right?
Yeah. And now that I'm not youthful anymore, I can tell you what, that's absolutely true.
It seems right.
Yeah.
I ask because I feel like people are often split on that. Some people really liked their childhoods. Some people really didn't like childhood. And I think that includes folks who didn't have a bad childhood. It's a whole different can of worms if you had a rough childhood and you probably didn't like being a kid.
Yeah.
But I think even people who liked it, there are those who are like, it's a real pain to be a kid. You have no autonomy. You have no agency. And you have no rights, even in society. Right? You are a ward of someone else until you're an emancipated adult.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I don't think I had a bad childhood, but as soon as I got my independence and you had your own space, you're paying for your own way in life, it felt really good once I finally achieved that. But I don't know, I feel sad about the fact that at least my childhood, how it worked is I played around with neighborhood kids. We would go to the playground and we would like invent games, or we would invent legends for our neighborhood and then start to believe the legends that we ourselves created, you know? And those aspects of childhood I really miss. Just knowing when you're on summer break, you wake up at 8 in the morning and you're like, as soon as my friends wake up, we're going outside and we're going to do something. We're going to go get dirty in the woods or get some ticks or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no responsibilities.
Yes.
I liked being a kid. I didn't appreciate the lack of responsibility because I think for me, school felt like a real responsibility.
Yeah.
And so there was like feelings of maybe not exactly dread, but like impending loss or something like that. I felt the seasons a lot more as a kid because in the summer I was truly free.
Yes.
And I was always counting down the weeks going. And I didn't dislike school, but I liked summer a lot. And that is a burden that I no longer carry because I don't have the summer off.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I remember distinctly not liking school, and I would not want to go back to just being stuck in this classroom for 7 or 8 hours a day and then just counting down the minutes until I remember just looking at the clock for the last half hour of every school day and just like, can it just move a little faster? I want to go home and do something fun.
The irony here, of course, is that your school was your living room.
Yeah.
And you wanted to go home to your bedroom.
I didn't want people to know that I was homeschooled. You just outed me.
Oh.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. Citizens of the airwaves, rebels of the revolution, this is Joey Z. I'm your voice, your heartbeat, your lifeline in these turbulent times. And I sit before you not just as a broadcaster, but as a fellow warrior in this fight for freedom. Jimmy, here with me. How you doing?
I'm Jimmy Dantes. I'm here too. Not sure for how much longer. It seems like Jerry Novak and the FCC, we've been seeing some surveillance helicopters overhead.
Birds in the sky.
Yeah, it's getting a little worrisome, but you know what? We are not going to be deterred. We're going to continue to broadcast until they put us in handcuffs.
That's right. You said turd. Oh, man. What are we talking about today, Jimmy?
Well, before we continue about what we're talking about today, I want the listeners to know that I wrote a book.
This is big.
Yeah.
This is really big.
My name is Jimmy Dantes, and I wrote a book called Quick, and it's up on Amazon right now. And if you want to check it out, I'd really appreciate if you bought a copy, because we may need the cash for legal fees coming up here soon.
We really need the support.
It's a dark fantasy and a dark comedy, and I think listeners of this podcast will really dig it.
Can I get it on digital?
It is only available in paperback and ebook. So I guess ebook is digital.
When I asked that, I didn't really know what I was asking.
I don't think you, well, maybe you do talk about books in terms of digital. I don't really know. It's up there though. Go check it out.
I'll get it in ebook. I can get it on a physical, an old school, analog.
If you, Joey Z, buy a copy, I'll sign it for you.
Is that right?
And it'll be the only signed copy in existence at the moment of broadcasting.
Hot dog.
Yeah.
How many pages is it?
We don't need to get into it. What are we talking about today?
Man, there's always so much to talk about on this topic of Home Alone, little John Hughes and Chris Columbus joint.
Yeah.
1990 family comedy Home Alone.
Written by John Hughes.
Yeah.
Starring Macaulay Culkin, John Hurd.
And Catherine O'Hara.
John Candy's in it too.
He is. That's a fun fact.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact. And if you don't know that yet, go check out some of our previous episodes, because I think we've got some folks who are archiving those, getting those up somewhere.
Yeah.
Voices of freedom. Mm-hmm. But today I think is a day where I really wanted to cover a topic that is of great import.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming. And honestly, when we say it, I think listeners are going to
big collective sigh of relief.
Yeah. Here. We knew this was coming, and finally it's here.
It's the Treehouse.
We're going to talk about the McCallister's treehouse in their backyard, featured heavily in one scene in the film.
Heavily. And really, it's important. It's crucial.
Yeah.
Question for you right off the bat. Who do you think built that thing? You think the McCallisters built it?
I don't know. I looked over that segment a few times, and it does look like it's relatively new construction. It's not finished or anything. And you would think seasons in the Midwest would start to wear down on just wood pretty quickly if it doesn't have any kind of protective surface on it. So
treated lumber, probably.
Maybe. I don't know. If it were built by the previous owners, then we would assume it would be a lot more weathered than it is now.
Now, when Kevin enters the treehouse via his makeshift zip line, he kicks his feet right through the back of it, and that actually makes me think that at least the sides are really frail,
starting
thin
to wear
lumber.
down. Yeah, so maybe it is an older construction. I'm not sure. Peter has a lot of tools in his basement, and I think previously I had speculated that maybe Peter was a general contractor, and that all of those tools, the tar he has, all of that stuff was used for his business. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's leftover tools and materials that he used to build this treehouse in the backyard.
You think maybe this is his magnum opus as a sort of a hobbyist contractor?
Yeah. Building a treehouse for your kids. I mean, that's got to be like a huge achievement in your life, and a bonding experience with your kids too, if you did it with them.
Now, I've never bought a house or an improved lot with a treehouse on it. I know that you can't count that treehouse in your square footage.
No.
But moreover, I wonder if a treehouse on a property for sale is a liability. It would be difficult to determine with certainty, especially for a place up in the air where kids are spending time alone.
Yeah.
If you hadn't built it yourself, is that thing really safe?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you bring that up, because the owners of the house at Home Alone, I actually looked into this to see if maybe that was a construction from maybe it was just part of the property, and they realized this is where they were shooting, and they decided, let's incorporate that into the plot. It was a construction for the movie. The crew of Home Alone built the treehouse, and then they disassembled it afterward, but they offered the owners to leave it up, and the owners chose to have it taken down, one, because they felt like it was kind of an eyesore.
Yeah.
And two, they were worried it was a liability, because if neighborhood kids like break into your yard, go up into that tree, and then fall out, it's on your property and you may be responsible for that kind of thing. I kind of wonder if this factors into why you don't really see tree houses anymore. Like, I don't see many yards in my neighborhood that have tree houses that look like they were built in the last 10 years. It feels like a tree house is sort of a relic of a bygone era. I don't know. Are kids playing in tree houses these days?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen a kid. I haven't even seen a fellow human being other than you for months.
Yeah.
So,
but we can remember what it was like back before.
Sure.
In the long ago.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen one in many years. I definitely haven't seen people construct one. One thing to add a complication on top of it is that if you're in a city, a treehouse is considered an accessory structure now, and you actually do have to get a permit for it from the city. And the permit also has to prove that it's structurally sound, which sort of feels like it goes against the nature of a treehouse. You're essentially
it's sort of inherently risky. You're building it in a tree.
Yeah.
Trees come down in storms. They're not built, they're not, prefabbed or built with structure or stability in mind. You hope if you're building it in a big oak tree, it's a stable tree, but you don't know.
They feel like they're inherently makeshift structures, and they're intended to be that way because, well, I don't know, a lot of parents build tree houses with their kids, and it's sort of this teaching experience. Let's build something. It doesn't matter if every angle isn't perfectly squared, if every board isn't leveled exactly as it should be, which I think would be expected if you need a permit to build it. I think.
Are there contractors out here? If you need a permit now to build a treehouse, are there contractors who are trading in treehouse?
Do kids even play in tree houses anymore?
I feel like if you were going to do it with structural stability, you'd have to put it on stilts and build it around the tree.
Yeah.
And really you just have the tree for aesthetics.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just got to imagine a city's not going to sign off on any of this stuff. Obviously, it's not safe to build a structure in a tree and then send kids up there where they may fall 15 feet and break their neck. That never happened to me, but it could happen.
True.
Where'd he go? Maybe committed suicide.
So that treehouse is featured in maybe 1.5 scenes. You do see Kevin go up into the treehouse when he's setting the traps, but largely the treehouse represents the end of all of the traps.
Yes.
This is the last trap that Kevin has set for the wet bandits.
It's Kevin's last stand.
Yep. He went up to the attic and went out the window. I always thought that he does this thing where he steels himself up before he does the big glide across the rope from the attic to the treehouse. For whatever reason, I had always thought he was hanging on a coat rack, which as an adult, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's got to be something better than a coat rack that's holding him up.
I think it's bicycle handles.
It is. It's bicycle handles, and I think they're roller blade wheels or something. You do hear the squeaking as he's going across the rope. This feels like a big moment for Kevin, though. He seems pretty creeped out about gliding across this thing. And I mean, rightfully so. It's a dangerous stunt. If the wet bandits fall, they're grown men. Maybe they'll be okay afterward. But a kid falling from that height, that can do some serious damage.
I don't know. I think I would rather fall from that height as a kid than as an adult, personally.
Yeah, maybe
Back
that's
when
true.
I weighed 60 pounds.
That's probably true. You probably heal a lot faster.
Yeah.
You wouldn't feel it for as long. Yeah.
But nevertheless, scary.
Yeah.
So he gets out to the treehouse, and then we get the classic line. He's not calling the cops from a treehouse.
Yeah. I also, I don't know, one of my favorite lines in the entire movie is when the wet bandits show up at the window, like, where did he go? And Marv says, maybe he committed suicide. What a dark line for a PG-rated family film. And what's going through Marv's head in that moment? Maybe he committed why would he have committed suicide? Why would an 8-year-old kid have committed suicide after he spent the last half hour battling bandits from entering his home?
Marv is a little slow.
But this is true. Yeah.
What do you think that Kate thinks of the treehouse?
I don't know. I feel like that was a pretty common thing that families had back in the late 90s.
You don't think that Kate thinks that maybe it's a little dangerous? You don't think that she's got some concerns about the kids going up into the treehouse?
Maybe not. I don't know. Whose treehouse do you think it even is?
Well, I wonder if what I've found myself pondering is it Buzz's hideout? Mm-hmm. And is this another place where Kevin isn't
allowed to
necessarily allowed to go?
Yeah.
Or do you have to be a certain age? Is Kate like, maybe when you're 8 years old, I'll trust you to go up in the treehouse or whatever?
Yeah, I think the treehouse, maybe it was Buzz's at one time. I think Buzz has moved past it. I think Buzz has his domain in his bedroom.
Yeah.
I think the treehouse belongs to Kevin and Jeff. And I think that the two of them bring their friends up there. And that's a place where they're the closest.
Mitch Murphy goes up there.
Mitch Murphy goes up too, and maybe Fuller.
Yeah.
I think that's where those two boys kind of like hang out when they want to get away from supervision or something.
What do you think about treehouses in general? So we've kind of talked about like maybe who built this, who belongs up there, you know, how well is it constructed? Treehouses to me, or, you know, clubhouses or forts or whatever that are portrayed in media for kids.
Yeah.
It feels like a unique trope that doesn't resemble common reality. So we've talked about tree houses that we're familiar with from our childhoods or whatever, but oftentimes I feel like in movies and television and books, whatever, a kid's tree house is huge or it's furnished or electrified. Stuff that I never saw. I've been up in tree houses as a kid, but stuff I never saw in real life.
Yeah. Most tree houses in real life were pretty rustic. They were pretty small, bare. Like it was basically just a tiny room that you were
in a tree.
And if you see movies like, I don't know, The Sandlot has a really big tree house in that.
Unbelievably large.
Yeah,
it's a clubhouse.
You've got an entire baseball team, amateur baseball team, spending the night in this treehouse together
with room to spare, not shoulder to shoulder in this thing. They're milling around. It's like a conference room.
This is like a dozen kids fitting in there. The tree houses that I grew up in, you could get maybe 5. I do remember any time that I would build a treehouse too, I would hearken back to the tree houses I saw in the movie, and when we would finish building ours, I would think, man, that doesn't look nearly as good as I thought it was going to look when I saw that movie.
It's really hard to build a fort.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the lauded Francis Ford Coppola film, Jack.
I have seen it.
You have seen Jack.
Yes.
This is a treehouse that...
It has multiple levels.
It's like the Swiss Family Robinson.
Yes.
It just makes absolutely no sense. Like it's not, you know, the premise is fantastical. The world is not in this movie.
Yeah.
Except for this treehouse. They have like a bridge, like a rope bridge. They're like 30 feet in the air.
They've got power running to it, and like more power than it would probably take, you know, like on a single 15 amp circuit. Like,
refrigerators.
Yeah.
No, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. And why? Like, why? How could this possibly exist? Now, that said, in this movie, the treehouse does come down.
It does collapse in on itself.
Yeah, it falls from there's too much weight. Yeah. There's too much weight up there.
Yep.
And then a butterfly lands on the windowsill. Yeah. And the whole thing comes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't think of too many other examples in media of a concept like the quintessential movie Treehouse.
Yeah.
That's just almost never resembles the real life experience.
I think one rationale behind that is that you need more space to make a movie. Like you need places for characters to run. And so they inherently have to make the treehouse much bigger than it would be in real life. And to an extent, I've got to imagine that the movie is intended to be like kind of fantastical for kids, for them to aspire to have a treehouse that's that big. Another big treehouse movie is Ernest Scared Stupid. Have you ever seen this one?
I have. It's been a while, but that is sort of notoriously a scary movie for people of a certain age. A lot of people will say, I was scared stupid by that movie as a child.
I remember it getting kind of scary towards the end. And then there actually are some pretty scary moments earlier in the film when the trolls like creeping up on kids. Because the premise is basically this troll was buried alive underneath this tree that was planted atop him. And Ernest and his kid friends from the neighborhood build a treehouse on top of it. The inciting incident for that movie starts with the treehouse, and it also ends at the treehouse. There's just a big battle that takes place there against the troll army. I don't know of any other movie that's featured a treehouse so heavily.
There was a series of books. What were those? Magic Treehouse.
Did
you ever read
those?
Magic Treehouse?
I read Boxcar Kids.
Boxcar Kids, kind of like living in a treehouse.
Yeah, probably
except a boxcar.
Yeah. Wait, is a boxcar like they're talking about a train?
I think so.
Are these like hobo kids?
Yeah, hobo kids.
Can you say hobo anymore?
You can say hobo for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hobo.
Yeah.
Hobo.
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 Hobo. Were there anything? It's just not great grammar.
No. Was there anything?
Was there anything from movies that as a kid you took for granted? Things that aren't true, but you learned the concept from a movie and it created a false reality?
I mean, to some extent, yeah. I feel like any movie that I watched as a kid, I kind of absorbed it. And it feels like there was something much more fantastical about my thinking as a kid. You are naive. You haven't been in the world too long. You see things on TV that look like they could be real, plausibly. And yeah, you kind of just take those things for granted. I mean, I can't think of specific examples. That just feels like an overall feeling for me. I'd watch a film, like I was saying earlier about the treehouse. You'd watch a film that featured this giant treehouse, and then when you built the thing, you're a little disappointed. And I think maybe it is in those moments that you kind of like start to grow up a little.
I wonder how much of the adventuring and the make-believing that we did as kids was inspired by movies or TV that we watched.
Yeah.
As kids from an era where we had home video, where we had regular access to kids' movies of our choice, watching what we wanted to watch, what we were interested in. How much of that subsequently fed into what we did with our friends out in the world?
Yeah, I don't know how much of that, because I did have video games. I played for 2 years straight. I know I played GoldenEye multiplayer every day, even if it was just me and my brother playing it. And then, you know, like everyone would start arguing because somebody picked Odd Job and just started like knee slapping you, or they started peeking on your screen, even though it's like a 13-inch screen so everyone can see everything. We'd get tired of that and we'd say, you know what, let's go outside. You also, like, I had my parents just saying, hey, go play. Coming into the room, you've been in here too long. Go
Get
outside.
out of my house.
Go play.
Go out there. Go build a fort.
Yep.
We had a particular amount of freedom when we were out just in the, I'd say, the proverbial woods. We didn't really have, there were portions of my childhood where you could kind of disappear into the woods, but a lot of it was more, you know, maybe hanging out behind someone else's house or in an alley in town or in the thicket, the overgrown brush between the backs of two houses in town or something.
Yeah.
And that was where we as kids were kind of free to be faux adults. not behaving in a way that adults would, but just really without direct supervision. You didn't have to whisper a swear word.
Yes.
You could talk about things that were uncouth.
Yes.
You could maybe do stuff out there that your parents might have thought was dangerous if you were doing it in the yard. Like, hey, what are you doing with those sticks?
Yeah, you could just get into mischief. I mean, I remember even just the aspect of exploring in general. I know I went places, if my parents knew I went there, they would have disapproved. And even that is just you expanding your world just a little further, even beyond what your parents anticipated. You know, they try to like set some guidelines, keep you in a safe space, but ultimately, like, there's this thirst for adventure. You have seen so little of the world at that age. And even just seeing another mile of what this forest looks like does something for you. And I don't know, I also felt like when we would explore in the woods too, we would claim ownership over certain areas. We build a fort there and we're like, this is our fort. Like we've discovered this land and it's now ours. And then oftentimes like the owners or some other kids would come and just destroy your forts.
Right.
That was another aspect of childhood too, is that you would build a fort and there were always rival gangs of kids who would come and try and destroy the thing you had built. This didn't happen so often in the woods, but I remember building snow forts. You know, you build a snow fort in your yard, or like the plow would come up and put a huge hill of snow next to your house, and you would like dig holes in it and tunnels or whatever, and then you come back to it the next day and some kid had destroyed it.
Yeah.
Where does that impulse come from? Like,
it was really, you're right. I remember we built a fort in the woods, and then we went back out there and the older kids were hanging out in the fort, and they told us to get out of there. They're like, you're not allowed to hang out. And we're like, we built this fort. And they're like, shut up.
Yeah.
Get out of here. We'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
And it was just so unjust. But it was really kind of Lord of the Flies out there with the kids' rules.
It really was. I feel like that is a trope that gets used often in movies. You have these kids, and oftentimes the bullies are the kids that are just one grade up or two grades up, because
it's a
they've grown.
Big difference in age.
They've grown enough
between
that they
10 and 12.
Yeah, and they can actually like kick your ass if they wanted to, and you knew that, so you didn't really cross them.
And if you knew them, you know that they might.
Yeah. And every once in a while, though, you get kids, though, who are like, no, this is mine, and I'm going to fight for it. I feel like that comes up in movies, too, and often the little kids end up, like, losing the fight. They, like, stood their ground. They lose because their foe is bigger. And this is, like, I don't know, kind of a lesson that you can relate to when you're a kid and you're in these situations.
Did you ever get any revenge? Slash some tires on some kids' bikes or anything?
Never slashed any tires. I do feel like I tried to, there were kids in the neighborhood that we didn't like. And, if they would if we could find a way to like get them back somewhere or whatever. I feel like lying in wait and then like pelting people with water balloons during the summer was like a way of getting your vengeance back. But I think in general, I was a much more like meek kid. I never wanted to get in fights. I was afraid of even getting into like shouting matches with kids I didn't know. I didn't mind like screaming at my friends over GoldenEye, but I didn't want, I knew they were my friend, and like the confrontation was only going to go so far.
I was legitimately scared of older kids beating me up.
I was
when I was like 3rd, 4th grade.
Yeah.
And it never really happened. I got roughed up a couple times. It never really happened.
Yeah.
But I was legitimately fearful.
Yeah. I don't ever remember being beat up as a kid. I think I got punched one time in the stomach, but most of my injuries were self-inflicted as a kid, Yeah. I feel like oftentimes, actually, in going back to these like fantastical elements, I've got a perfect answer for you. Actually, I was riding my bike one time and recounted when Terminator had he was riding a motorcycle, and I remember he did that skid, that thing where they like turn the handlebars and they skid and slide.
Yes.
And it just looks so cool. And then, he like pulls his gun out, starts shooting or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember trying to do that as a kid. And I just was going full speed on my bike, turned my handles straight sideways, and my bike just stopped. And I flipped over the handlebars, hit my head on the concrete.
And I'm sure you weren't wearing a helmet.
I wasn't wearing a helmet at the time, but I survived. But this is one of those instances, though, where I grew up in a short span of time. oh, it doesn't work the way I thought it did in the movies. I feel like that's often a common source of childhood injuries, is them trying to do some stunt they saw in a movie and then just tripping over themselves and bashing their head into the concrete.
There's hardly a better reason to not let a 10-year-old watch T2 Judgment Day than that.
Yeah. And to this day, I wear my seatbelt every time I get into a car. So, lesson learned.
And helmet.
And helmet. I wear a helmet in a car.
Down here, you big horse's ass! Come and get me before I call the police!
Let's get it.
Wait. It's just what he wants us to do. It's to go back downstairs through his funhouse so we get all tore up.
You're gonna call the cops.
He's not calling it from a treehouse. Come on.
So bringing it back to Home Alone and considering the meaning of the treehouse.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I feel very strongly that the treehouse that Kevin uses for his final escape in many ways is a metaphor for the human condition.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. I've always seen that him coming across the line from the house. Okay, so for the entire movie, Kevin has been left home alone.
Yes.
And that house is his domain now. That's where he lives. But the next day, his parents are going to come back, and that illusion is going to come crashing down. And I felt like this... Kevin going across that rope with the bike handles, him steeling himself up for it, maybe that is him understanding that he's not going to be an adult for very much longer, and that he's going to return to the treehouse, which was his domain before when he was a kid. Well, like, okay.
Indeed.
Yeah. So before he was left home alone, this was really him and Jeff. I mean, they had their room, but Buzz is right next door.
Right.
And so this kind of represents the home of his childhood, of him as a younger person before he went on this adventure with the Wet Bandits. And so him going across that is like, all right, I'm done being an adult. I've done my part, and now it's time for me to be a kid again. And I'm going to go back to my treehouse, and I'm going to try to lure those guys over here, those old men, because they don't know what it's like to be a child anymore. They don't remember anymore. And so they're going to fall flat on their ass when they try to go back to childhood. But Kevin still remembers because he was just a child 5 days before.
This is incredibly brilliant logic on Kevin's part.
Yeah.
And I think it really shows Kevin's growth. And also, I think it's just another incredible example of John Hughes instilling this deeper, rich meaning into the tapestry of the storytelling.
Yes. Yeah.
As a reflection of the human psyche, I feel like the treehouse is... and especially Kevin's psyche, to piggyback on what you were saying, the treehouse is separate from the house. It stands alone. Yeah. And I think it is really a profound representation of Kevin's being home alone. The treehouse, in a way, is almost Kevin. Yeah. And the house is the McCallisters.
Yes.
And when Kevin goes to the treehouse, it's an acknowledgement that he is alone, much like the treehouse is, and the house is separate from him. And that bridge, that divide that he has to cross on the handlebars in that moment is as wide as the Continental Divide across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. And then on top of all of this, once he gets to the treehouse, this is the last point in the film where he actually gets one last victory against the Wet Bandits. You know, they see him over there. I'm down here, you big horse's ass. And then the Wet Bandits start climbing across the rope, and he does the final trick where he cuts the rope, and they land flat against the brick wall.
Yes.
But that's it. That's the last victory that Kevin has, because the wet bandits foil him in the next scene. He's transitioned back to being the childhood Kevin. He's defended his home successfully and realized, okay, I'm not an adult anymore. I'm leaving this back here, going to the treehouse. And now he's re-entered the real world, you know? It really is fantastical. I don't know, sometimes I even wonder when he like crashes through the treehouse, he like shakes his head. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know, I like it's sort of like him emerging from a dream or
Yes.
something, as if him being home alone and defeating all of these robbers was just a dream or you know, something along those lines.
Incredible. I think that's so spot on, and I think that is obviously intentional, because when we talk about tree houses in media and in cinema, they are always this representation of the fragility of dreams. And I think that using the treehouse in this way to shake Kevin out of his dream really reminds us how fragile this dream is of him being the man of the house. And in this one brief moment, if we give ourselves the space, this is almost the heart of Kevin's entire journey.
And it's all wrapped up perfectly when he goes across the street to the Murphys, comes upstairs through the basement, and the wet bandits are right there. He's finally lost, because when it comes down to it, a kid isn't going to beat a couple grown men. He got them with a bunch of traps, and it was a lot of fun to watch. But when it comes down to it, an 8-year-old kid needs another adult to come into the room. And that's where Old Man Marley comes in. Old Man Marley, who is at the opposite end of his journey in life. And it's him.
90, 100, 105 years old, however old he is.
And he understands what needs to be done to defeat the wet bandits. And he does so in that moment. And Kevin's almost dumbfounded. He looks at them on the floor and he's just like, wow, you know, like, this is great. I can't believe this. And then they get arrested, and, you know, it's just wonderful. It finishes it up perfectly.
Absolutely. You had mentioned how he goes from the treehouse to the basement, and I think that is also incredibly brilliant metaphor, where they have climbed this ladder of challenges, and he's always one step ahead of the wet bandits. And now he's in the treehouse, but they're still at the attic level. They're still at the same level. And Kevin uses this opportunity to use that to leverage against them their lack of childhood memory, so that when they climb out, he immediately sets himself both literally and metaphorically above them. But like you said, how quickly that dissipates. And moments later, we find him in the basement of the Murphys. And now he is below the wet bandits. Going back to his roots, so to speak. He climbs down out of the treehouse onto the ground level, and then goes back underground where the roots of his treehouse are. Absolutely.
Becomes a kid again, and then there we see it, you know, like a kid overwhelmed by something that he can't overcome.
And Kevin, in a way, is also a tree. And I think tree as a metaphor is so meaningful in this context, because he has those roots in the ground. He has a trunk, which is where he wears his shirt. Well, and he has limbs.
And you also think about the fact that we as humans used to be a tree-dwelling species. We used to be up in the boughs of trees. And we came
arboreal creatures.
We came down, but there is still that call, even from childhood. And I think this goes back to why kids want tree houses to begin with. It's that call to be back to our natural state. We're up in the tree. We're safe from all of the predators. And this is probably why Kevin goes there at the end of the movie, safe from the predators in the treehouse.
Absolutely. It's that primal urge.
It's baked into your genetics to want to be safe.
It's deep in our DNA. And John Hughes, bless him, never lost those childhood instincts. He still carried in him as an adult that instinct of our arboreal ancestors, and how important the tree was to us, and how important it is to us today as a lingering metaphor for the human condition.
I feel like, I don't know, I think we wrapped that subject up pretty good. I can't think of anything more we can say on it.
There's some, I think it was a real inevitability that we had to talk about the philosophical constructs here, because ultimately it's kind of what the film's about.
Yeah, and I don't want to rush the judgment on this. It's up to our listeners to decide, but I feel like this is probably the most meaningful episode of The Long Road Home Alone we've ever aired, and I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Likewise,
yeah.
It feels bigger.
I feel
than
like
both you and me.
We reached a new level today as co-hosts of this long-running show,
and as members of a society.
Yeah. You all right?
Excuse me. And we did this for Sheboygan.
Yeah. We wouldn't have talked about this subject if it weren't for Sheboygan, who is still holding up the resistance against Jerry Novak's tyrannical rule. And we know they're still out there looking for us, but you know what? We're going to keep broadcasting, and we don't even care. Like, there's just no way that Jerry Novak is going to get his hands on us.
There cannot be any way.
No.
We will continue to keep up this fight for you, Sheboygan. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement. And thank you for fighting on the front lines while we are here in isolation, in solitude.
But still on the front lines, too.
Still on the proverbial front lines.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're probably more on the front lines than even the people on the front lines.
There's like there's a line. There's like the front line,
it's a symbolic
which is like
front line, which is actually in front of the front line, where it's more dangerous.
We're like
definitely more important.
We're like the mermaid on the front of a ship.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones carved of wood that like get barnacles built up on them. Absolutely. And whatever, you know, and but that's the first thing you see if you're a pirate and a ship's coming at you, and we're on pirate radio.
Exactly. We know that the work that we are doing here today and every month before and hereafter is keeping the resistance machine running.
We understand that we are the fuel for the people of Sheboygan, and that we need to keep broadcasting in order to keep that fire of revolution alive.
Hear, hear.
And Jerry Novak is going to be defeated. And buy my book. It's also called Quick. It's on Amazon. My name's Jimmy Dantes.
And when you support that, you support the cause.
Yes.
And we will win this, folks.
Do you want to win the revolution? This is the only way.
We will see you again. We promise we will see you again. Keep your ears to the ground.
You big horse's ass.
Broadcast live from our studio in
Undisclosed Location.
The Long Road Home Alone is hosted by Jimmy Dantes and Joey Z, and produced by Pat Muldoon. Be sure to tune in next time. Don't forget your reading glasses. And keep the change, you filthy animals.